What if life on Earth was put here on purpose? Not humans. I mean the first tiny organisms that could copy themselves and keep going. That sounds like something you'd hear in a late-night alien documentary. Except in 1973, Francis Crick, one of the scientists who helped work out DNA's structure, and chemist Leslie Orgel put the idea in a scientific paper. They called it directed panspermia. Maybe, they argued, an intelligent civilization had sent primitive life to Earth deliberately. Not a spaceship full of aliens. A seed. And if that seed took hold, you and I would be part of what came after. Crick and Orgel weren't claiming they'd found proof. They hadn't. They were asking whether the mechanism could work. Something living would have to get off one world, cross space, arrive somewhere else, and still be able to reproduce. So that's the test. Forget who sent it for a moment. Could you actually send life? If the answer is no, we're done. The problem is, parts of that journey are already real. Start with what you'd send. In 2023, NASA brought sealed material back from Bennu, a carbon-rich asteroid. In those grains, researchers found all 5 nucleobases, the chemical letters used in DNA and RNA, and 14 of the 20 amino acids life on Earth uses to build proteins. To be clear, they didn't find DNA or a cell. There was no tiny alien frozen in the sample. It was chemistry. But chemistry that formed away from Earth. So the raw material isn't the impossible part. Getting a living passenger from one world to another is harder. We know rocks can make part of that trip because some already have. Pieces of Mars are sitting in labs on Earth. Scientists identify them from their minerals, chemistry, and even gas trapped inside them. An impact hit Mars hard enough to throw rock into space. Some of that rock eventually crossed to Earth and survived entry. So planets really do swap material. Put a microbe a few centimeters inside one of those fragments, and the stone gives it some shielding. But first comes the ugly part. The rock has to be hit hard enough to escape Mars. In March 2026, researchers tried something close to that with Deinococcus radiodurans, a bacterium famous for being absurdly hard to kill. They exposed it to shock pressures similar to those involved when rock is blasted off Mars. At one point, 4 gigapascals, roughly 13 times the pressure at the deepest point in the ocean. About 95% survived. At 2.4 gigapascals, more than 20 times the pressure at the deepest point in the ocean, around 60% survived. And the survivors could still reproduce. That doesn't mean we've recreated panspermia in a lab. It means one very obvious objection just got weaker. The launch doesn't necessarily kill what's inside. Then comes the part the lab hasn't solved. The trip through space. A buried microbe still has to survive drying out, radiation, years without repair, then arrival. Between stars, it gets much worse. We can test pieces of that route. What we don't have is a confirmed organism that left another world, completed the journey, and started growing here. Not yet. But some pieces are now real. Life-related chemistry exists away from Earth. Rocks travel between planets, and some microbes survive launch-like shock. That doesn't prove Crick. It just makes the idea harder to laugh off. Which brings us back to the obvious question. Why would aliens bother? A dying world is one answer. If moving a population between stars was hopeless, microbes would be far easier. They might also seed empty worlds before ever going there. Or maybe it was an experiment. Send the same starting material to different planets and see what evolution does with it. What makes the most sense to you? Survival, colonization, experiment, something else? Put your guess in the comments. Because if somebody really did this to Earth, there's a better question than why. What would they have left behind? Take the survival version. Your planet is finished. Moving billions of people between stars is hopeless. Microbes are different. They're tiny, and they don't need food or a return ticket. They only have to stay viable. So you send lots of small payloads, knowing most will fail. One reaches water. By then, whoever launched it may be gone. The cells aren't. They keep dividing, adapting into things nobody predicted. If that happened here, Earth wouldn't really be a colony. It would be a continuation. And here's where the alien DNA idea gets misleading. If a seed arrived billions of years ago, why would one strange sequence still be sitting in the human genome waiting for us? DNA gets copied, broken, repaired, and changed. Evolution keeps editing the result. Underneath all that, every known organism on Earth uses deeply related biological machinery and a nearly universal genetic code. That's why we know life here shares common ancestry. Follow your branch back and it joins other animals, plants, and eventually microbes in the same deep family. But a family tree tells you only that the branches connect. It doesn't tell you where the root grew. If that root arrived from somewhere else, there may be no separate alien fragment left to find. The whole tree would descend from it. So what would actually convince us? A confirmed extraterrestrial cell would be huge. So would an ancient device that clearly wasn't made here. Even a biological pattern that evolution struggles to explain would get attention. We don't have any of that. But not finding a calling card isn't the same as proving the trip can't happen. After billions of years, plenty of evidence could be gone. There's another limit. Panspermia doesn't explain how life began. If the first cells came from Mars or another star system, life still had to start somewhere. It changes the address of the mystery. It doesn't solve it. One discovery could change this very quickly. Find life on Mars, Europa, or Enceladus, then compare it with us. If its chemistry is fundamentally different, that would make separate origins more likely. But if it shares very specific molecular machinery with Earth life, similarities that are hard to shrug off as coincidence, transfer between worlds becomes much more interesting, provided contamination is ruled out. For deliberate seeding, you'd want something even harder to explain away. An engineered object in genuinely ancient material, for example. We haven't found one. So for now, the answer is frustratingly simple. We can't prove it. We also can't say the basic mechanism is impossible. So go back to the question. How much alien is inside you? We don't know that aliens seeded Earth, but parts of the delivery system exist in nature. Bennu showed asteroids can carry chemistry life uses. Martian meteorites prove material moves between planets. And the 2026 experiment showed brutal launch shock doesn't automatically kill a tough microbe. The complete journey is what nobody has demonstrated. Life may simply have begun here, on the young Earth. A first cell could also have arrived by accident, and deliberate seeding is still a possibility we cannot completely rule out. We can't separate those stories with today's evidence. If life started here, maybe none of you is alien. If the root came from somewhere else, there wouldn't be one alien gene to point at. Every living branch would share that origin, including ours. So, how much alien is inside you? Possibly none. Possibly everything.